Fuad here, back on Behind the Gloves with another interview. This time I'm joined by Sheffield's own Johnny Nelson.
Behind the Gloves.
Behind the Gloves is where it's happening right now.
You don't like Michelle.
I don't, and I'm going to get a lot of comments because it's the first time on camera. So, I don't know, maybe there'll be some lovers, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of haters. But let's talk about this Saturday. Huge card. Sorry, not this Saturday, next Saturday.
20th.
Yeah.
Dillian Whyte, Oscar Rivas topping the bill. Depends on where you want to start. We could start with the chap we've just seen today, Dave Allen against David Price. Good fight, good match. We'd say a crossroads for David Price, but he's been turned over before, and you think, is that him done? David Price believes he has the beating of Dave Allen. Dave Allen has been honest and said, look, I'm good, I'm not great, I'm good, I can fight, and I'll give it a go. So you've got a guy that's growing into loving the game at such a short stage. Late stage in his career, he looks in good physical condition. You look at the stars of both fighters, and you think they're matched perfectly. I think it's a first half fight, no matter what.
Won't go the distance.
It won't go the distance. I'd be very surprised if it went the distance. And I think David Price is probably one of the most biggest underachievers in our sport, because you expected him to be the heir apparent from the amateurs coming to the pros. I think he had a 15-fight unbeaten run until he met Tony Thompson. And so for David Price, he needs this win, because on a domestic level, it means a lot. So if it's international level and you lose, then you can always come back. But on a domestic level, so I think this is probably make or break for David.
Dave Allen just there. He's with Darren Barker now. What do you see? I mean, you can't take a lot away from a workout, but what can you see that may be different that you've seen from Dave Allen before? Self-belief,
and I know he comes across as a really confident guy. Self-belief. Individuality, he's got one-on-one with Darren Barker in our gym in Winkermank where he used to train before. It's not like that. It's a community thing, and success breeds success. We bring each other on. Just didn't work for Dave Allen, and now he's actually fighting, thinking, you know what, I'm actually not bad here. Brendan always used to say to a lot of us, you haven't got the confidence to match your ability. He used to say it about Dave Allen. You haven't got the confidence to match your ability. So no matter what bravado Dave drops for you, Brendan always said, it's going to take time. And Dave's 27 years old. Maybe now all of a sudden the penny's starting to drop. He knows his limitations, but he knows what he's also capable of doing as well. And he always fancied this fight. And I can remember him coming out at the back end of my career. Dave, he came in and he was. He's always been strong, always been tough. He's never stood out. He's just grown into a big piece of a man, and I think maybe now's his time on a domestic, if not European level.
Let's talk about the main event. Before we get into the fight, I just want to take your opinion on the whole WBC situation with Dillian Whyte. They've also brought out the franchise champion. They've not obviously confirmed it with Wilder. What are you making of this whole WBC situation and Dillian Whyte?
Well, again, I'll quote my old trainer, Brendan Ingle. It's the same story, different actors. We've had this argument time and time again with governing bodies. Governing bodies don't do themselves any favours. And I remember when the WBO first came in, and we got letters from the Boxing Board of Control saying we were not to take part in fights that hosted the WBO fight. The governing bodies have their own agenda, their own rules. It's like a kangaroo court. They don't do themselves any favours with the public, because it just confuses the public. Apart from the heavyweight division, you go to the general public, not boxing public, and ask him to name 5 other world champions. And for a while, the heavyweight division was in such disarray as well. People didn't know who was who, what's what. And all of a sudden, the WBC have now, on the UK, from a UK point of view, have not done themselves any favours with the UK fans, because the UK fans think they've Dillian Whyte is hard done by. They've not been right by him.
But 600 days as a number one position.
Exactly, and still there's no clear decision, clear direction for Dillian Whyte. It's not fair. It's point blank not fair. And I spoke to Dillian. I said, have you considered legal action? And Dillian is a fighter. He wants to fight. He doesn't want to be the bus driver. He doesn't want to be the ticket collector. He just wants to get in there and fight. And so he leaves that up to representation. But it's just not fair. This franchise situation that, again, the WBC have come out with, I'd love them to explain why. Answer questions why. It's not going to happen. As long as fighters and promoters and TV companies buy into it, as long as they'll do it. Yeah. And it's not just your WBC.
I was just going to say that WBO actually removed Dillian as he was going to be mandatory, but Usyk coming up to heavyweight division, he's instantly mandatory. What do you think of that?
So as I'm saying, they all have their agenda. Yeah. I know if you're a WBO champion and cruiserweight and you want to move up, you automatically get into a place. I get that. And it's not fair in certain situations, especially if you're a Dillian Whyte that's been waiting forever and a day for your opportunity. Yeah. What has Dillian got to do?
I mean, he's fought like the best of the best recently.
He's fought himself into position. Yeah. So he's done everything that every other fighter has done. And so that's the issue there. And again, we can try and make sense of the decisions of the governing bodies. But again, they make up their own. And it's going to get to a point, and it's happened before, where the fight is more important than the belt itself. Yeah. Mayweather did it. Yeah. So you said, keep your belt. I'll still earn as much money without a belt on the line and box to 12 rounds, but I don't need you. And there's more fighters that need the belt than that don't need the belt. But governing bodies are slowly going to lose credibility. They weather the storm. That's what they do. That's what they've always done.
Tyson Fury had a lot to say about Dillian Whyte as of late.
Great timing.
Yeah, I mean, just before his fight. What do you think it is that Tyson Fury is trying to get at here? Because they're not going to. It doesn't seem like they're going to fight with the networks and everything. Him saying that he's got the Wilder fight.
This is just my personal opinion. I think Tyson Fury has heard the whispers of him being knocked out by Dillian in sparring. Yeah. True or false? He's a fighting man. He's not going to let that lie, true or false. So he has to come back with something. He's got to come back with something.
If they fight, who would you see winning?
That's a toughie, because if it's true, I know sparring's sparring, and I know if it's true, and Wilder's and White's had him down more than twice, 3 times, how many times, it means he has the blueprint to beating Tyson Fury. What surprises me is hearing Tyson Fury's run, and I'm a fan of Tyson Fury, so I ain't beating on him, trust me. Dillian Whyte is the only fighter that he said he ain't going to fight in one form or another. He's the only fighter that he said it about. Nobody else. Not Anthony Joshua, not Deontay Wilder, not Luis Ortiz, nobody. The only one he said it about is Dillian Whyte. So that makes me think, has he got your number? Yeah. Because in doing that, now he's made it quite clear, look, we won't fight, block X, Y, Z, whatever it is. From saying, look, yeah, we'll fight, if it's for this, well, we'll fight, and then when he gets what he wants. I think his rant at this point, instead of us talking about Dillian Whyte and Oscar Rivas on the 25th of July Sky box office at the Audio Tour, we're now talking about Tyson Fury. Yeah. Great. Brilliant.
Commercial.
They're met in the street and they're talking block up. Yeah. You've got 2 guys that wear their heart on their sleeves. Yeah. So I don't think this is all handbags at dawn. Yeah. This is for real. I know Tyson Fury's the kind of guy that he'll pull you. I remember he was doing an after dinner talk, and I was hosting him. And when I walked in, he ripped me for saying something I said about him on Sky Sports.
I do remember. I remember the whole situation.
Yeah, man, and I thought, I like you. Yeah. And I had to explain myself, and I get that. I had the same running with Dillian Whyte years before, when Dillian Whyte was in training camp with Vladimir Klitschko. I'd said something. He was vexed. He tweeted something like that. We bumped into each other there. He said, "Yo, we need to talk." I said, "Yeah, let's talk." I'm an ex-fighter, so I'll talk fighting talk. I'll explain myself. I'll not talk shit to somebody and say it just for shit's sake. I'll give a reason why I've said what I've said. If my reason's wrong or right, I've said what I've said. And I think and I rate every fighter that gets in there. Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte, the 2 fighters that, in my opinion, and Derek Chisora, in my opinion, have changed my opinion of them as fighters, as individuals. And I'll always say, technically, the best fighter on the block is Tyson Fury. But him saying what he's saying, and him kind of in a roundabout way saying the only fight he won't fight is Dillian Whyte. It makes me think there's no smoke without fire. Yeah. Dillian Whyte is that Fraser kind of fighter where he don't give you no breath, no breathing space. He'll stay on your chest. He may have the blueprint to beating Tyson Fury. You don't know. I don't know if it's true or false, these stories that have gone round. But I think Tyson Fury's timing is great. I think Dillian needs to be smart and think about his own business instead of responding to this stuff here, because he's in with a tough fight against Oscar Rivas.
Did you see that fight playing out?
That's a tough fight, and he'll regret taking that fight because he wins. It's going to be a tough win. If he loses, you know, you've given your Deontay Wilders and your Tyson Fury an excuse not to fight you. It's a tough fight. My trainer Brendan Ingle would never have let me fight Oscar Rivas. So if I'm in touching distance of boxing for a world title, he's not going to let me fight somebody that's a danger. It'll get me an opponent, but he won't get me somebody that dangerous. Yeah. And I thought, Dillian, I rate you, because he's fighting fights. You think, what are you doing, man? You're in line to box. And I'm not saying don't fight. What I'm saying is, get a fight, but don't get too risky, because each one of them, people in the game think this is a tough fight. Don't underestimate Oscar Rivas. He's tough, he's young, he's hungry, has an amazing tempo. Dillian Whyte has improved so much, but it's not an impossible task, Oscar Rivas winning.
He's got less to lose than Dillian Whyte as well, that's the main.
Exactly, and that's why, and he's in the hunt, in regards to the two of them. In regards to Dillian Whyte and all the Wilders, your Furies and your Joshuas, he's the hunter. Yep. In regards to this fight, Oscar Rivas and Dillian Whyte, Rivas is the hunter. Dillian Whyte's the hunted. Yeah. So is Dillian Whyte motivated enough, hungry enough, had the bit between his teeth enough to think, I am going to give you top performance and take your ass? Yeah. Or has Rivas got that? You don't know.
It's an interesting fight, very interesting fight, July 20th. Last question though, seeing as though we were talking about WBC. There's a potential fight with Deontay Wilder and Ortiz too happening again. It's quite likely now. What do you make of him fighting someone, number one, who he knocked out, and number two, when he's got other big fights that he can take that will attract more attention?
Well, he wants to right the wrongs, so that's why he's fighting. He's doing the rematch with. He's mentioned the rematch with Fury, and he's now mentioned about Ortiz. Ortiz had him in trouble, and he caught Ortiz, so he's thinking, let me just fix this right. And that's why he's wants to do the same with Tyson Fury. He's saying, let me just fix this right. Because I've got a bit of a shadow over my wins, my career, my position, my championship material. So I get where he's coming from. I totally get it. So I get it. I get where he's at. I just think, if the WBC are letting him fight who he wants, or letting me fight your Ortiz's and letting you fight your Fury before dealing with his obligations, that's down to WBC, not down to Deontay Wilder. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's a fighter. It's show business, and he's doing the show. They're dealing with the business.
For sure. But John Nelson, absolute pleasure always. Thank you very much for talking to us. Cheers.
Hey Fight fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you do so by clicking this icon right here, or else